John Solie is one of our country's leading commercial illustrators. He does more movie posters than any other artist ever, living or dead. You've probably seen his latest, the one for Cannery Row or the movie Buddy Buddy. He also does lots of Saturday evening post covers, like the one of Katharine Hepburn. The portrait is on the wall behind him. He also does record covers, but his favorite art is designing paperback book covers for companies like Bantam, Pinnacle, and Avon Books. Today, John is going to give us a painting lesson while we talk. John, how are you?
I am terrific. How are you, Molly?
Fine. Why commercial art?
Greed, I think.
No.
No. I like commercial illustration. It's the only kind of art that I've ever been able to understand. I talked to you not long ago about fine art, and
which we're in total disagreement about.
We seem to be, yeah. And it's not the term fine art. I'm not in a disagreement about that, but what fine art is today, what it has been for some recent years. And I'd like to ask you again, what is your opinion of it?
What's my opinion of fine art?
Yeah.
Well, when I look at fine art, like when people come to my art gallery, I have like 3 or 4 criteria for judging what is good or what is innovative. One, has it ever been done before? Like some artists come in and it looks like they're reinventing the wheel. They bring this thing in and I say, but Jasper Johns did that, or Robert Rauschenberg, and they say, oh, so the first thing I look, has it been done before? 2, is it done well? 3, does it have any interest for me? Is it something like an artist will come in with his mother's goldfish? That really doesn't interest me. So it has to be some issue that is interesting to me. And what I think are particularly pertinent interests today are ecological interests, the idea of relationships, how people are getting along, love, the idea of color, how color changes as it's put between 2 different colors. So what I'm really looking for are things that haven't been said before, and usually things that are pertaining to issues that are vital in our country today.
I understand that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but it always seems to me like, so what? Where does that? What feeling is that supposed to leave us with? In my impression, in my belief, is that art, to differentiate it from the other art forms, painting, drawing, sculpture, being a different type of an art form, it's a visual form. And it's how you feel. And the visual, as I've talked to you before about this book I'm heralding.
Which book is that?
Drawing from the Right Side of the Brain. I love this book because for years I've been trying to explain a feeling that I've had that is explained very easily in that book.
I didn't show it to them.
Yeah, and what they talk about is the 2 hemispheres of the brain. And the left being an intellectual side, and the right side being an emotional and visual side. The right side of the brain has no concept of time or anything else. Or not anything else, but no concept of time or any intellectual thought. What modern art looks like to me today, most of the modern and abstract art, gives me a feeling of that incredibly intellectual exercise. You have to know what they were thinking, know what they were feeling. They have to be described. If you look at them, you don't know what the artist meant. Well, I'm not against that. I think it's wonderful, and I think they should continue it. I don't think any of them should be put in prison for it. No, I don't think any of them should be put in prison for it. But it seems like the art world has accepted that kind of art to the exclusion of anything that they can understand. It seems like intellectual art is the only art of today. If you do illustration, they say, well, that's only illustration.
Yeah, he sold that.
He sold that. And you ask about selling out. I don't feel as though I have, but then where else can you can't sell commercial art or realistic art in galleries unless it's photorealism, which isn't the right side either. That's just the intellectual redoing of a photograph.
Well, you went to art center school. Did you always plan to be a commercial artist? Or
Yeah. There was a time when I thought I'd like to be a fine artist, and I went
to... Who? Who was your favorite? Norman Rockwell?
Oh, yes. Illustration, Norman Rockwell was my favorite. I'd say today is my favorite because I think that he was the kind of an illustrator who illustrated the soul and feeling of the people. When people think of a Norman Rockwell, they think of any picture with a circle around it and a funny dog. I don't think of that at all. Most of the paintings that I'm impressed with by him have an incredible amount of life and feeling to them. He said once that if you really love the subject, the people looking at the subject will love it. And I believe that. I think that if you can get yourself into the right side of your brain, which is almost meditative state. You know, I've often said that I don't draw the pictures, I don't paint the pictures. In this case, if I'm doing one of you today, I will, because that's an intellectual thing. I'm too aware of the set here to go off into any meditative state. But
what do you mean? You actually lose time? You actually lose hours?
I frequently sit down in the morning and look up and it's dark out. I have no concept of the day having passed at all. I look at pictures that I finished and it looks like I'm seeing them for the first time because I wasn't even really there when I did them. I honestly feel that I've many times said that I don't paint them anyway. God does. I just take the credit. He doesn't need the credit. In a way, I feel that way because I think that on the right side of your brain, it is the meditating side. It is the side where you are in tune with the world. The right side of your brain knows, it's very smart. It knows a lot of things. We call it intuitive. What is intuitive knowledge? It's knowledge that we all have. We have it all the time. But in the left side, when we try to control it and figure it out and understand it, it doesn't come across that same way. The left side has to be intellectual. It has to be understandable, and it can't. If it gets beyond the ABCs of thinking, it starts sounding, oh, that's so mystical or weird, or and I don't think that it is. I think it's something that everybody has, and anybody can draw. The book says that anybody can draw, and I think you can. We're trained not to venture into the right side of our brain. We tend to be late when we do that.
There's an art critic named Tom Wolfe who's written a number of books, not just on art, but satirizing our entire society. And what he claims in his book, The Painted Word, is that to understand contemporary art, which is what I deal in, you have to have a dictionary or some sort of thesis in order to go in, because you're confronted suddenly going to the museum, like in the case of the Rothko show, with big blobs of color. You have absolutely no idea what you're looking at. I find that stimulating. I find it challenging because I think you never get tired of it. I think people get into collecting. Like, I have a theory. I'm very cynical about why people collect art. I think people start collecting art when they're young because they love it. Then I think they get tired of, like a wife or a husband. They want to start some sort of new hobby. Their children are raised, so they get into collecting art. Then they find there's a status involved, that suddenly they can be on museum boards, that people are inviting them to dinner. But I have a feeling that once you get hooked on art, fine art, you never get out, and I think that that's what people find dissatisfying maybe with illustrative art.
That's possible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not right, but it's possible.
Yeah.
I read the book, The Painted Word. I got a different feeling from it. I felt that he was, in a sense, knocking the fine art or the abstract art since the 1900s. Art to me is such an emotional thing, and it's such a simple thing. We're simple people, and we have simple feelings. I think one of the reasons that art isn't even more popular today than it is because people really don't understand what they're looking at. They think there's some clue to understanding it, and there must be, because I've never figured it out either. And if we can understand it, it's supposed to be bad. But why is that? Why have we turned the tables like that? We talk about the old masters. Well, up until more recent years, the old masters were doing things that we all could understand. And we say now that, well, that's been done. We can't do that anymore. Well, it seems to me ridiculous. No, you can't say that everything has been done. There's still plenty to do.
Well, I grant you, I know there's an elitist attitude in fine art. Maybe that's why people are attracted to it, because people who have made a lot of money find it so easy to buy anything they want. But there's something about trying to understand it, getting involved with the artist and the art community, that is very rewarding.
Yeah, I can imagine that it is.
Tell us about your art. Why do you like doing paperback book covers so much? I walked into a supermarket the other day, and you and I have a lot of friends in common, and I saw a picture on a book of a friend of mine, Charlie Vick, and he was standing there holding this puppet, and I thought, my God, I thought I'd lost my mind. That was Charlie.
That was Charlie.
You use our friends.
I use everybody we know, yes. They're cheaper. I never pay for bottles. I like doing paperback books, and paperback books are cheaper. They don't pay very much money. Movie posters pay tons of money. But movie posters are generally designed for you. You don't get a great deal of freedom. Plus, you have very, very tight deadlines. What they're interested in a movie ad is selling the movie. They don't really care that much whether it's any kind of a piece of art or not. It's very, very commercial. Book covers, because they don't pay you anything, or pay so little, they don't have the freedom to art direct you nearly as much. And you've got a freedom to do just about anything you want to do.
Well, how much do they pay?
$800, $1,000, $1,500. It's
See, that sounds like a lot to me, because my young artists starting out maybe get $300 a canvas, and they're dependent on supporting themselves with that unless they get a teaching job.
Well, this isn't a lot of money.
But anyway, do they give you the idea? Do they say we want a man and a woman making love, or we want some sex and violence, or how do they give you an idea of what you're supposed to do?
They generally send a tip sheet and give you a sketchy idea of what the story's about. They send the book if you want to read it. I don't ever want to read them. But no, they don't tell us too much about what to go on the cover. If there's a particular scene in the book that it has to be, then of course they will say that. But there is so much freedom to do. I planned to bring some book covers with me, and I couldn't because they didn't.
Well, the viewers can see them. They're in every supermarket and every bookstore.
Yeah, it's just the freedom. It's the freedom to do pretty much what you want to do.
Do you ever turn anything down?
I turn them down a lot. If I personally, I feel as if I'm going to sit there and paint a picture, and I'm feeling what I'm painting and caring about what I'm painting, I don't want to paint a picture of something of a place I don't want to be, of a subject I don't like. I generally turn down violence. I don't want to sit there and paint people's brains or blood all over the place. I like happy scenes, places that I like to be, love novels, things that you can get into and don't mind staying there for a few days. A set that has an interest, a place that you might like to be. I stay away from science fiction too. I've never really gotten into science fiction. I did an ad for Star Wars, but those kinds of pictures, things that I can't relate to and can't really get a feeling about, I have too much difficulty getting into doing. They become then an intellectual process for me. If it's not something that I have any feeling for, it's an intellectual process, and I hate any intellectual process. I guess that's probably the reason I rebel so strongly against some of the art that you like so much, because it's a different thing, and it's not a bad thing. It's not. I'm not saying that I think there's anything wrong with it. It's just that it is a totally different field than the emotional side of art, which, unfortunately, illustrators are just about the only ones who have the opportunity to do. There are some fine artists who are doing it, but you don't see them selling very much of that.
When you get an assignment to do Katharine Hepburn, for example, or, Ken Kercheval, the television actor that you painted, how do you go about it? Do you work from photographs? Do you work from them?
Yeah, I usually work from photographs. I very, very rarely work from life. I would like to, but there's just no time for that. People aren't going to sit there for 30 hours while you paint their picture. So, yeah, photographs, and I prefer...
Again, do you think God is working through you? Do you feel you're just applying?
I don't want to sound too weird there, but yes, I do. I think that, if you can picture working from a photograph, you're working from a photograph of somebody, and hopefully you set up this shot and met the person when you photographed them. In Katharine Hepburn's case, I didn't. I never met her. Met her once, years ago. But if you look at a photograph of someone, a photorealist is copying that photograph. And the photograph itself, it becomes the art. Right? If I'm working from a photograph, I'm not looking at the photograph at all. I'm looking at what the photograph was looking at. And it just makes a better memory bank or an imagination bank for me to picture the person being in front of me. And so I've always felt that I don't paint the pictures. The person, the subject, is painting the picture. The best thing I can do is to get out of the way. If I can get totally out of this, get as far out of the actual decision-making and painting the picture, the better the picture will be. The right side of the brain can do it. It can look, it can see, it can feel, and it can put it on the paper. The left side is only used for actually mixing colors and moving things around. I want to stay away from that left side as much as possible. In the beginning, you have to figure out that red is mixed with green to gray the red or whatever that.
So you have to go to school and learn techniques.
You have to learn that, but after a while, it's like driving a car. You don't think about going from first to second to third gear. You're just driving the car, and you're thinking about something totally different than that. If you have to stop all of a sudden, your foot just automatically goes on the brake. You don't think about that anymore. And painting becomes the same way. In painting and drawing, you have to practice like the scales on the piano. You practice and practice and practice until the facility is like second nature to you. Then it becomes easy in a sense, because if you can get out of there, as I said earlier, sitting down in the morning, at the end of the night, you look and there's a picture painted, you feel like you weren't even there. It is very, very easy. When I start thinking, and I do this quite often, that, hey, I got it now. I know how to paint a picture. And I start trying to put down what I believe, my mind knows to be a fact. I paint terrible pictures. You see the difference immediately. They'll see the difference immediately now if I'm going to sketch you, and I'm going to. Because to do this and have some awareness of where we are and what we're doing, I have to stay as left-brained as possible. And so now we're getting into what I know, not what I feel, okay?
Can I talk to you? Can you do two things at the same time?
Yes, you can talk to me. I don't know if I can hear and do this at the same time. We'll do the best we can. John, when you are working with, do you ever teach? Like when you're working with new people, do you have? I've tried it. I found it incredibly frustrating. If I'm going to teach somebody to do something, I want them to be as dedicated as I am. And if I feel that they're not totally dedicated, if I'm not getting anything across, I lose patience in a hurry. I always thought I wanted to teach. I really felt for years that I'd like to do that. I think that the ego part of teaching would be terrific. But I think I'd be a terrible teacher. I expect them to have the absolute commitment to this. And I don't know that I could handle it if they didn't.
I feel like we're doing the Louis Malle movie, My Dinner with Andre. We're sitting here, but I'm about to tell you about my experiences. I started being a painter in the New York School in the Abstract Expressionist days. And the artists were all trying to just show by throwing down color, how they felt in their guts, what their emotions were. I found that such a turn on. And I remember the art teachers trying to get the students to break out and start experimenting, getting away from just copying.
Has it ever crossed your mind, or do you ever think of this? I've often thought, there are colorists who paint just color. There are people who paint who paint textures or compositions, Mondrian compositions. All of these things, whether it's color, texture, composition, drawing, all of those facets that are separated and becoming fine arts as themselves, are all encompassed in painting any kind of realistic thing, drawing or painting any kind of realistic thing. It's not that compositions aren't considered. Compositions are considered all the time. Colors are considered all the time. All of the facets that I say are now taken individually in fine art are put all together in one form. Some people say, and I find it difficult to disagree with them, that the highest art form today would be film. It might be, and it encompasses more than any other one thing. It encompasses movement and light and color and sound and poetry. The whole thing is all in one art form there. And I suppose if I'm thinking, talk at the same time, if that's what you're after, I would think that probably would be one of the highest forms of art. I worked in the film industry too for a while as a production illustrator, and I got enthusiastic. I thought, Jesus, you could do anything with this. You could do anything with this medium. But the problem is that they don't let you do anything. If you're an illustrator, they let you illustrate. The first thing I wanted to do was get a red pencil and change the script. They don't ask me for that, And I'm going to have to do this very loose and quickly, so if this looks anything like you when we're done, we'll claim it was you. If it doesn't look anything like you, we'll claim it was an abstract painting and I meant something here.
found a lot of times that film people are interested in collecting art now. It used to be the opposite. I mean, well, collectors used to be kind of boring. I found in my art gallery that there were a lot of people who would come in and start collecting, and they were just so dreary. You know, you just didn't know what to do because they had absolutely no idea what they were doing. They just wanted some status or something to do. Now it seems to me a lot of creative people are getting into collecting. The first one I ran into was Norman Lear, who wanted to learn about painting and actually fell in love with the artists. He had a stereotype of artists being kind of like Peter Ustinov types with a beret and a smock, living in Paris, seducing young girls.
I was like that too.
No. That's not the look today of artists, though. No. Artists look like you do. Artists have button-down clothes.
It's a pity, isn't it?
Mercedes.
There's no culture left.
What about Michelangelo? Do you revere that kind of thing?
I am such a fan. I went to Italy. I went to Florence. I was on my way to Rome and never got there. I couldn't get out of Florence. I am such an incredible fan of Michelangelo. You know, you can go to Forest Lawn and you see the sculpture of David. And I did, and I said, that's big. And it is. It's big. And you go to Florence, you go to the Piazza Signora, where the original was. And again, it's real big, you know. Then you go to the Academia and you see the original. You'd swear that it was two totally different sculptures. Now, I know with those, they've copied in the same Carrara marble, they've got to be right down to a millimeter of the accuracy to the original. But the original is alive and they're not.
Why? Why is that? Why is some painting dead and some sculpture dead and other is living? Now you're getting into creativity.
I honestly believe that that's the difference between an artist and a craftsman. I think that Jesus, I'd have to go back and change that line too. But I think that a person like Michelangelo was able to meditate, if you will, at a deeper state than most people. I don't think that he did those things. You know, he was the vehicle through which those things got done. I don't think any human man is so great that he himself, with his own intellect, could ever do a David or a Pieta or any of the incredible work that Michelangelo did. As you walk, all of Florence is a museum anyway. You know, they should charge admission as you go into the city.
Right.
But as you walk around the city and you see all this incredible art, and there is a tremendous amount of it, and I was awestruck. You know, everything's beautifully designed. The craftsmanship is incredible. Everything is, you know, piece after piece after piece. It's just wonderful. And then you see a Michelangelo, and all the others turn to rock. You know, they're beautiful. They're well designed.
What do you mean when you say he gets into a deeper meditative state than most of us?
Yeah, I don't think that it's such a mystery. I don't think that.
You're really a great spiritualist, then. You believe that God is working through Michelangelo.
Yeah, I do, and I avoid telling people that because it sounds mystical, and it sounds like. I don't like the way it sounds. It doesn't make me sound like your average guy. I want to be your average guy, right? But I don't know how to paint a picture. You know, I do. Proving it.
I can't wait to see it.
Intellectually, I can't, you know, I don't know how to. I don't think there are so many things involved in the simplest picture. So many colors, values, shapes, intellectual things, if you want to then pick it apart and figure out how it happened. That I don't think any person could ever do one. Not worth anything. I mean, it'd be terrible. And yet, knowing as little as I know, I can sit here and these things just happen. Now, somewhere along the line, I have to realize that I didn't do it. I'm repeating myself, aren't I? Because I'm getting back into that same thing. But it is my strongest belief that if you just get out of the way, there's a story. Maybe many of your viewers have seen this on television. I didn't. but I believe it was Walter Cronkite who talked with an autistic child, who talked about this autistic child in England, I think, who was capable of drawing. She was like 6 years old, I'm guessing, and did incredible drawings. They compared her drawings with Picasso's at a similar age, and the critics there said that she was far, far superior. She did things that, very, very successful artists had difficulty with. And she was like 6 years old, autistic, didn't say a word. There is a place in London, I think, a hospital that worked with autistic children, and they worked with her for some time. And they finally got her to speak. And her drawings are now like those of a 3 or 4 year old. She has no ability to do that anymore. While she was autistic, I know, she's happier now, though, because she's normal. We'll decide that for her. But while she was in that state, which could very well, I'm not a doctor, and I don't know that this is what was happening, but while she was in that state of, I think, right-brained-ism, drawing was the most natural thing in the world. Drawing, painting, I don't know about painting, I don't know if she did that. Anything visual, really, would be about as natural and normal a thing for her, I think, and would be for anyone. But we're trained to stay out of there because you sound awful dumb when you're there. You can't answer questions properly. You say, I don't know a lot. And you're always late.
Well, I have a theory that some people are popular in their 20s and some people are popular in their 40s. And I think that like there are golden people like the Kennedys that make it when they're very young, they're popular and they have friends. And then I think there are those of us who are older and we hit it when we're in our 40s. And I think that we always remember the unhappiness and the loneliness. I think part of that goes along with being creative. Anyway, we're going to have to stop now. If the viewers want to learn how to draw, where can they find out?
Not here.
Not here. Next time you go to a supermarket, if you see this picture, which I haven't seen yet on the cover of a book, I pray and hope that it's a beauty or a health book and not one of John's regulars depicting images of puppets or murder or disaster or whatever.
I swear I'll never do this again.
This is Molly Barnes, Art News. I hope you'll all join us again next week.